What if I told you there's a vegetable you plant once, and it quietly feeds your family for more than 20 years without replanting, without buying seeds again, and without much care at all? No yearly sowing, no seed packets, no dependence on garden stores. Just a plant that comes back on its own season after season, like it was designed to outlive trends and catalogs. Now here's the strange part. If this vegetable is so reliable, so productive, and so easy to grow, why don't seed catalogs talk about it anymore? This isn't a forgotten myth or an ancient survival plant. Gardeners used to grow this vegetable as a staple. It survived droughts, neglect, poor soil, and even wars. It spread quietly, multiplied underground, and reappeared every year without asking permission. And that's exactly why it slowly disappeared from commercial seed catalogs. Because a plant that doesn't need to be replanted doesn't create repeat customers. A vegetable that propagates itself doesn't fit into a system built on selling you seeds every spring. Over time, this plant was labeled old-fashioned, invasive, or simply ignored while hybrid vegetables that need constant replanting took over garden shelves. But in backyard gardens, rural plots, and forgotten corners of old homesteads, this vegetable never actually vanished. It just kept growing, quietly. In today's world, where food prices rise, seeds become more expensive, and climate stress makes gardening harder, plants like this suddenly matter again. Because when a vegetable can feed you for decades with almost no input, it challenges everything we've been taught about modern gardening. And once you understand how this plant works, you'll start seeing why it wasn't erased by accident, but by economics. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what this vegetable is, how it survives for decades, and why growing it gives you something modern gardens can't: true independence. The vegetable that refuses to die. For generations, gardeners whispered about a strange vegetable that seemed almost impossible to get rid of once planted, long after other crops failed. This one returned, year after year, pushing fresh shoots out of the same soil where it had been forgotten. You didn't replant it. You didn't pamper it. In fact, the less attention it received, the better it seemed to grow. Old gardens abandoned decades ago still surprise new owners with its sudden reappearance each spring. This vegetable stores its strength underground. While most crops put all their energy into one season, this plant plans far ahead. Its roots act like a living pantry, saving energy through heat, drought, frost, and neglect. When conditions are right, it rises again as if nothing ever happened. That ability alone made it priceless for early gardeners who couldn't afford failure. But what makes it truly remarkable is longevity. Many plants promise productivity for a few years. This one quietly delivers for 20, sometimes 30. It doesn't rely on seed packets or perfect timing. It simply survives. And in a world obsessed with new varieties and faster harvests, a vegetable that refuses to die became inconveniently powerful. Why our grandparents never bought seeds every year? Before modern seed catalogs existed, gardening worked very differently. Families depended on plants that could sustain them without constant inputs. This vegetable fit perfectly into that system. Once planted, it became part of the land itself. Each year, gardeners harvested what they needed and left the rest to regenerate naturally. Because it reproduced underground, there was no urgency. Miss a planting season? No problem. Forget to tend it. It still came back. That reliability mattered when food security was fragile and time was limited. People didn't garden for aesthetics or trends, they gardened to survive. This vegetable was often passed down, not purchased. Neighbors shared pieces of root instead of seeds. Entire communities grew the same plant from the same original stock for decades. There was no brand name attached to it. No marketing. No catalog description promising miracles. The underground system that makes it nearly immortal. The real secret of this vegetable isn't visible above ground. It lives below the surface. Instead of relying on seeds, it spreads through tubers that multiply every year. Each growing season, the plant doesn't just feed you. It prepares future generations of itself. When harvested, tiny pieces are always left behind. These fragments aren't leftovers, they're backups. Each one holds enough stored energy to grow into a full plant. That's why even gardeners who try to remove it completely often fail. Unlike annual crops that drain the soil, this plant improves it. Its deep roots loosen compacted earth, draw nutrients upward, and encourage microbial life. Over time, the soil becomes richer and easier to work with. This is why land that once grew this vegetable often becomes permanently fertile. Its resilience also makes it climate tolerant. Heat may slow it down, frost may kill the stems, and drought may pause growth, but the roots remain alive. It doesn't fight the environment. It waits. How seed catalogs shape modern gardens. Seed catalogs are not neutral lists, they are sales systems. Every plant they promote must generate repeat customers. Annual vegetables fit perfectly. Plant, harvest once, and buy again next year. A self-replanting vegetable disrupts that cycle. Once you grow it, you no longer need to buy seeds. Worse, you might share it freely with others. From a business standpoint, that plant produces food but not profit. So instead of being celebrated, it was reframed. Descriptions subtly changed. It became unruly, invasive, or unsuitable for modern gardens. Meanwhile, hybrids promising uniform size and fast growth took center stage, even if they required constant replanting. Over time, gardeners stopped seeing alternatives. What wasn't printed might as well not exist. The plant wasn't banned or outlawed, it was simply omitted. And omission can erase knowledge faster than prohibition ever could. The vegetable's real identity and the confusion around it. This vegetable is known as Jerusalem artichoke, sunroot, or sunchoke. Despite the name, it has nothing to do with Jerusalem and isn't an artichoke. That confusion alone helped push it into obscurity. It's actually a sunflower relative grown for its edible tubers. Above ground, it looks wild tall stalks, bright yellow flowers, and a rough appearance. Below ground, it produces heavy yields of nutritious food every single year. Because it didn't behave like tidy row crops, it was misunderstood. Gardeners expecting control were frustrated by its enthusiasm. Seed companies struggled to standardize it. Instead of teaching proper management, it was quietly ignored. Nutritionally, however, it's impressive. Rich in fiber, minerals, and inulin, a compound that supports gut health. It was once considered peasant food. Today, it would be marketed as a superfood. Why gardeners are rediscovering it now? Rising food prices and unpredictable weather are changing how people think about gardening. Reliability is becoming more valuable than perfection. That's where this vegetable stands out. It doesn't demand precise planting dates or fertilizer schedules. Once established, it largely looks after itself. Busy families, beginners, and survival gardeners are all rediscovering its value. Across online forums and permaculture communities, people share stories of huge harvests from patches they barely touched. Many are shocked to learn this plant was hidden for so long. This rediscovery isn't nostalgia, it's adaptation. When systems become fragile, resilient plants return to relevance. And few vegetables are more resilient than this one. How to grow it without losing control? The biggest concern gardeners have is spread, and that concern is valid. Left unmanaged, this plant can expand aggressively. But control is simple when you understand how it grows. Plant it in a defined space, raised bed, or container sunk into the ground. Harvest thoroughly at the end of the season. Keep only what you want for next year and remove the rest. Control comes from harvesting, not fighting. Once you respect its growth cycle, it becomes predictable. Instead of invading, it stabilizes. Many gardeners even appreciate that it thrives where other crops fail. With basic boundaries, this vegetable becomes one of the lowest effort, highest return foods you can grow.